Hey folks, look what we have here today. Polaris's 2023 Slingshot R. Who's ready to go for a ride? I mean drive.
All right, folks, there it is, Polaris Industries 2023 Slingshot R. This is a three-wheeled autocycle in the state of California. Federally, it's known as a motorcycle. Two wheels up front and one drive wheel in the rear. Look at that thing. Look how cool it looks. Polaris says that this Slingshot was designed to look like a predatory style bird. And I think they did a good job in the looks department. If you're someone who wants to attract a lot of attention, this Slingshot R is for you. Look at those 18-inch front meats up there. The Slingshot R has 4 piston Brembo calipers. Yes, finally some decent braking on this Slingshot. Look at that new hood. This hood is called its sport vented hood. It's available as an accessory or OE fitment on the R spec Slingshot. It also includes that huge 300 series rear Kenda meat on a 20-inch tire. We have these Boss, and I do mean Boss, R spec bucket seats. These things are awesome. We will talk about them in a little bit, with a heated and cooling element right there. It's this button here. This allows you to heat and cool the seats. We also have this nifty fly screen and some other touches. Now this Slingshot, the cool thing about this vehicle is it actually has storage, so you can put stuff in behind it. There is the cover, probably fit a helmet back there and some other odds and ends, and of course you can close it and lock it with a key. Very, very neat. Let's open the hood, folks, and take a look. There's a latch right here that opens the hood. Let's open this thing and see what we're working with. There is a little lever system to open it. This is Polaris's ProStar 1997cc inline 4. This was modeled after GM's Ecotec engine, which powered the original Slingshot for many years until 2020, when Polaris developed its own inline 4 engine. This is the same engine that Polaris uses in its RZR Sport UTV. Look at that double wishbone suspension, which the forged, I think that's forged control arms. Look, stainless steel brake lines. There are the shocks attaching to each A arm. There is the airbox, the radiator. Very, very neat. Gosh, this thing looks so boss. It even looks boss with just the hood open like this. This is like some real Knight Rider type stuff. There is the cockpit of the vehicle. Of course, you put fuel in here, 91 octane pump gas, no methanol or E85 specification fuel. There is the motorcycle type rear suspension. Look, motorcycle type swing arm with a shock and a belt final drive. There is the differential like system. You have to change the fluid on that every 10,000 miles initially, and then a little bit longer duration afterwards. But we'll get into the nitty gritty in a little bit. Who's ready to drive? I am. All right, folks, here we go aboard Polaris's 2023 Slingshot R. Here is the electronic key fob. It's a proximity key fob, which you can see right here. Let's put it in the cup holder. You have to have that key fob within the proximity of the vehicle to start it. Starting procedure is, number 1, put your safety belt on. This vehicle employs an automotive style safety belt. Make sure the vehicle is in gear, push in the clutch, hit the start button, and away we go. It's always good when you're starting this thing to press the starter button to allow the electronics to cycle on, which takes a second or two, and then press the starter button to start the vehicle. If you're try to do it fast style, modern man fast style, and just push it all at once, it just sometimes wigs out. So press the power on, give it a couple seconds to cycle, then start the engine. All right, like we've talked about before, this is a 3-wheeled autocycle in the state of California. Federally, it is known as a motorcycle. To operate this vehicle in the state of California, you have to have an automobile driver's license. No M1 endorsement is needed. You also have to don a DOT labeled helmet. It doesn't have to be a full face helmet, but it has to be a DOT labeled helmet for both driver and passenger. Now, hopping in this vehicle, it requires some interesting body contortions to get in. There are no doors like a UTV. It basically has this steel frame rail which holds you in the cockpit, as is the bucket seat. So even though this vehicle is very low to the ground and it has no doors, it's actually a little bit hard to get into. If you were someone who's disabled or had limited body movement, this vehicle would be a little bit tough to get in. So definitely requires some interesting body contortions, more than it would a low-sung sports car. But once you're seated at the controls, this bucket seat, especially the Slingshot R's premium bucket seat, it's nice. It holds you in very nicely. I like the amount of adjustment it has forward and aft. We have the seat in the most rearward position. We're 6 feet tall, and it's in the most rearward position. If you were a tall person, I could see how this vehicle might be a little cramped for you. But for our 6-foot body, it is very nice. This vehicle also has tilt. So the R spec has tilt, so you can tilt the seat forward or back. We have the seat in the most rearward tilt position, and it is pretty good. Again, if you were over 6 feet tall, we could see how this vehicle could be a little cramped for you. This vehicle, in traditional automotive terms, it has tilt steering, so you can move the steering wheel up or down. However, you cannot move it in or out. It does not have telescopic steering. Let's put it right here. I think telescopic steering would be a nice feature. Realistically, even cargo vans have telescopic steering now, so it'd be nice if this $30,000 vehicle had it. All right, folks, this Polaris Slingshot R is powered by Polaris Industries 1997 CC ProStar inline 4, 2-liter inline 4, 16 valves, dual overhead cam, water cooled. This engine was unveiled a few years ago, and it serves as the engine that powers the Slingshot, obviously, and Polaris's new RZR inline 4 powered UTV. So this is the engine that powers this vehicle. This engine was modeled after GM's Ecotec engine, which the prior generation Slingshot used. So in 2020, Polaris went to its own ProStar inline 4. Before that, it was the GM Ecotec engine, which was an inline 4 engine that was used decades ago in a variety of vehicles. So Polaris smartly wanted to have their own powertrain, because it's always better to have your own powertrain, because when you have your own stuff, you control it, and that's just better. So they engineered their own inline 4 engine, and that now powers this engine. We've talked about it in previous Slingshot reviews, how this Polaris engine feels very similar to that GM Ecotec engine, but it has a little bit more pep. This particular Slingshot R engine is rated at 203 horsepower at the crank. 203 horsepower, it's 25 more than the Slingshot SL we tested last year for the 2022 model year. So an additional 25 horsepower in it, gosh, you really feel it. This thing is a lot more peppy than the 2022 Slingshot non-R spec was. It's pretty interesting how Polaris is able to just boost the power through programming changes. So it's cool to see that there's a lot of uncorked potential inside this engine. It's got a really nice visceral sound, like the engine note, the exhaust note, just that idle. It sounds good. And you give her the beans, and she's got to get up and go. Yeah, yeah, woo! Now we have an Aisin 5-speed transmission. Aisin is a Japanese transmission company. This Aisin transmission is the same type of transmission that was used in older Chevy Colorados and Isuzu Troopers. So again, while the ProStar engine is basically all new for the 2020 model year, it was loosely coined off GM's Ecotec engine, which was a older style inline four for many years ago, made it to an older style Aisin 5-speed transmission. But while this transmission's old in architecture, it works really good. I really like the way the transmission feels, the throws between each of the 5 forward gears. It's not too long. I mean, it's a little bit long, but it's not crazy. Engine shifts really smoothly. The hydraulically actuated dry clutch has really nice push on the lever. The pedal push is really light, and it has good response. It's fun driving a manual speed automobile type transmission. I haven't operated a vehicle with this type of gearbox in many years. Well, actually probably since the last time we operated the Slingshot SL last calendar year. So I like this transmission. Now, as usual, Polaris offers its optional auto drive automatic transmission. Now basically what that is, it's the same Aisin 5-speed gearbox, but it has automatic actuation that was developed by Magneti Marelli. So basically, instead of you pushing the clutch lever with your foot, a machine does it, the computer does it. So if you can even believe it, many years ago, the Fiat Durango, that Ram ProMaster van with its diesel engine, they had an automated manual transmission like this one, where it was a manual transmission with a computer literally pushing the clutch. So that's nice for folks who don't want to deal with shifting, but at the same time, that form of transmission is a little bit just slow. It shifts slow, and it's a little bit not as responsive as a modern automatic transmission. And then, of course, not nearly as responsive as a DCT. DCTs are always the best. Nothing's better than DCT. But realistically, even non-DCT automotive type transmissions that are made currently in the 2023 model year, they shift pretty fast. You'd be surprised how fast non-DCT, I wanted that green light, how fast non-DCT transmissions shift. While we're waiting here at the stoplight, let's discuss the Ride Command 7-inch color TFT display right here, which returns. I like this thing. It is touch screen sensitive, which is really sweet. Look at all the metrics we have here. Remaining fuel mileage, battery voltage, engine coolant temperature, and oil service indicator. It's really slick. We also have a compass and GPS navigation. How cool is that? There's also a sound system. Let's play some tunes. Let's play some tunes. There we go. We got some tunes going. Yeah! Now the thing I like about this Ride Command system, the same system that Polaris has used for a long time now, and Indian Motorcycles use it too, is it's really easy to pair your phone. Other companies out there, they have a difficult time, or they at least used to. Now pretty much everyone's figured it out, but it's very easy to pair your iOS enabled smartphone via Bluetooth with the system. And when you pair it, you can get, obviously you can adjust, you can listen to your music off your smartphone, and you can also do turn-by-turn navigation with via Apple Maps or Google Maps. I personally like Google Maps because it's way better. And then of course you can take phone calls. I'm not one really to talk in ride or drive. That's not really my thing. You know, when I'm operating a vehicle, I like to be just fully immersed in the ride and be paying attention to what is going on in front of me. But still, if you want to talk on the phone, you absolutely can. It's very slick. Now, this Slingshot R specification vehicle stands out from the other models with this high-end Rockford Fosgate system. It's got a multi-speaker system. There's 2 speakers, one on each side of the door. There's also these tweeters right here, and this thing rocks. It sounds really good, especially compared to the bass sound system. Yeah! This is fun, boys and girls. Of course, we can mute the audio easily with these buttons on the left side of the steering wheel. Very easy to use the buttons. You can turn up or down the music too. Sick. Let's take a left here. Yes, a curvy road. This is where the Slingshot is meant to be operated. Yeah! Woo! God, this engine is way more torquey and powerful than the Slingshot SL was. Now, this vehicle weighs right around 1,700 pounds with a full 10 gallons of fuel. And at below 50 miles per hour, this vehicle handles awesome. It handles awesome. It feels like a little slot car go-kart. Very fun to operate. Unlike other vehicles, this 3-wheel autocycle is rear-wheel drive, so it puts power back to the 20-inch wide 20-inch rear. This is a big 300 series Kenda meet via belt final drive and a motorcycle type swing arm. The rear suspension is motorcycle based with a swing arm and a shock and a belt final drive. So that's where it puts power back to. Stability control helps keep things in line. God, this thing is fun. Now, suspension travel rise, we have right over 4 inches of travel up front and just over 5 at the rear. And the ride quality of this vehicle, it rides pretty rough. You're definitely going to feel the bumps in the road. But like we said before, below 60 miles per hour, this thing offers real intimate handling. And it's very responsive, and the bumps don't really bother us. However, over that speed, this vehicle, over 60 miles per hour, this vehicle just feels skatey. Dances around a lot. The suspension rides really roughly. And it's just, it's not, yeah! I love going through the 5-speed gearbox on this thing. What a hoot! Feels like you're driving a sports car. Oh God, I love those brakes. Thank God that they upgraded the brakes on this vehicle. The Slingshot SL's brakes were mediocre at best, and these 4-piston Brembos up front, which we'll talk about in a little bit, are much better. Below 60 miles per hour, below 70, this thing is an absolute hoot to drive. So visceral. I love the way the ProStar engine sounds. It sounds like a racing car. It's just the mesh between each of the 5 cogs. Oh yeah. That was so much fun, folks. Brakes on this vehicle, the Slingshot R is endowed with triple disc hydraulic brakes. They are linked, so unlike a motorcycle where the front and rear brakes are operated independently, these are linked together just like an automobile with a center brake pedal. And the brakes on this vehicle are much better. 4-piston Brembo calipers up front. They grab oversized vented non-cross drilled rotors with a vented non-cross drilled rotor out back being pinched by a single piston caliper. I was never a fan of the Slingshot brakes. Obviously on the original 2015 Slingshot, the brakes were pretty much horrible. Then they updated them, they got a little bit better, but still not great. Well, finally with the Slingshot R, you have capable brakes. Wouldn't say they're totally awesome, but they are far more capable than previous iterations. And to me, I would absolutely want these brakes. If I had this car, I'd have to have these brakes. If I didn't have these brakes, I would not be happy. So good job, Polaris. Thank you for updating this thing and putting on nice, capable brakes, of course. Fixed always on ABS. It mitigates the chance of wheel lockup if you slam on the brakes like that. Don't worry, folks, I made sure no one was behind me. This is closed course testing. So always on ABS mitigates the chance of vehicle instability during braking because neither of the 3 wheels can lock up. All right, folks, we got a little construction here. God, I love this sound system. Now, while obviously we are operating this vehicle during the day, this Slingshot R also has this really nice bespoke interior lighting which you use with this switch. So by using this switch, you can turn on and off the lights, and it also has 2 color settings. So it has like a white light color setting and this nice indigo blue color setting that gives this vehicle a real premium feel. In terms of storage, we have this glove compartment here that is lockable with the key. We also have a USB charging port and a 12-volt charging port, and there's also a 12 USB charging port right here as well. Instrumentation. Polaris has used this instrumentation in its Slingshot and old style RZR UTVs for well over a decade. It would be nice if they updated this. This just plain looks old. This should be new. I still do like the swept style analog gauges. I love swept style analog gauges. So that'd be kind of cool if Polaris and Slingshot integrated that into a new display, but this display is just way too old looking. They need to update it, especially for the MSRP of this vehicle, which is $7,000 more than the last Slingshot SL we test drove last calendar year. Isn't that crazy? 33 grand for this thing. And then if you want the auto drive transmission, it's $2,000 plus on top of that. Whoa, this thing is expensive. But these premium bucket seats, the interior lighting, the big tire, the Brembo brakes, this cool windshield, and that sport vented hood, I don't know, these are really nice features. I would definitely want these features. Let's turn the seat heat on. That's right, this Slingshot R is equipped with seat heaters and seat cooling. Now, the seat heaters and seat cooling, unlike an automobile, this Slingshot, each seat uses a heat pump. So it uses a heat pump-like device to heat up and cool down the seats. And it actually works. When we interviewed the Polaris Slingshot VP, he was talking about this feature, and he's like, yeah, it actually works pretty good. I'm like, no way. There's no way it can work pretty good. It's a heat pump, a little one at that, I'm sure. But we're not joking. It works great. Seat heaters work really nice. You push a button here on the front of the bucket lip, there's a red or a blue icon, and it has multi-level adjustment. We have the heat cranked. Conversely, if it's a hot day, you can put it in max cool. And it's not going to cool you down significantly, but it's going to add a degree of comfort. Right now we are operating the Slingshot R in 55-degree ambient Fahrenheit temperature, and that's a real sweet spot for this vehicle. Last year when we test drove the Slingshot SL, the engine heat in the cockpit was borderline excessive. Obviously, if you're operating this vehicle in mild, moderate weather, it's not that big of a deal, but if you were driving this thing in Miami, oh my God, you'd be burning alive. This sport vented hood does a really good job of cooling things down inside the cockpit. Not only that, it looks cool, and the aerodynamics have been reshaped so it flaps less at speed. Again, this sport vented hood is something that we would absolutely want on our Slingshot. Here we go. I love how much character this ProStar engine has, especially in our configuration with the power boost. Definitely a lot more character than the GM Ecotec version. Good job, Polaris. We like that you're paying attention to the details and making for a more visceral operating experience. Whoa, did you see that guy cross the yellow line? That crazy person? Now, it's worth noting that this Polaris Slingshot isn't subjected to modern automotive safety standards. There's no crumple zones. There's no supplemental restraint systems besides the seatbelt. Polaris has engineered these rollover style tubes in the back of the vehicle on each side, which help protect the occupant in the case of a rollover. But aside from that, there really isn't a lot of safety in this thing. Because this vehicle rides so low to the ground, it's very easy for someone to not see you, especially in a big pickup truck. So make sure when you're operating this vehicle, you're of course wearing a dot labeled headwear. We always wear gloves no matter what power sport vehicle we are operating. And make sure you are paying attention to the road in front of you and operating the vehicle within the limits of your ability. We've talked about it before. Safety is paramount. That's paramount ethos here at Motorcyclist Magazine. And if you want to become a better rider or driver, seek professional training. We want everyone to have a long, safe life in the power sports world. Right now we are operating this vehicle at 50 miles per hour. There is a little bit of vibration through the controls, but not too much. Get the engine revving, then you feel some engine vibration. Still not bad. Oh yeah. Rev limiter cuts things out. Really love the roar of this engine. What a hoot it is to drive. Steering feels very precise, especially under 60-65 miles per hour. Polaris says this vehicle is good for 125 miles per hour. It's limited at that speed. We're going to take their word for it. Like we said before, when this vehicle gets above 70 or 80 miles per hour, it just gets a little too darty. It doesn't go over bumps real well, rides real rough, and it just is a little bit too unstable for us at those speeds. But below 70, 65 miles per hour, yee-hoo! Now this Slingshot R is also equipped with this dark smoke windshield. During the day it's awesome. I like it a lot, but at night it definitely reduces the the ability to see in front of you, see what's going on in front of you. Definitely a nice touch, but I'd almost want a clear one, because a clear one would be more conducive to operation day or night. All right, folks, here we go. Maintenance on this vehicle. Polaris says it wants you to change the engine oil and filter at 5,000 RPM increments. The rear differential, it's not quite a rear differential, but it's a rear differential like device which transfers power between the transmission and the belt final drive. It wants you to change the fluid in there every 10,000 miles initially, and then a little bit longer duration afterwards. Polaris has a really neat video series on YouTube on how operators can service that component themselves. Air filters should be changed every 15,000 miles, and fuel filters at 25,000 miles. If you can believe it, this vehicle goes a whopping 30,000 miles between valve inspection intervals. Isn't that crazy? 30,000 miles. Good job, Polaris. That's longer duration than even Yamaha motor vehicles with its parallel twin MT R7 engine, which is right around 26,600 miles. Good job, Polaris. This vehicle has a 2-year warranty on it. 2 years. Extended protection is also available. Yeah. Thing's so fun. There's the traction control coming in, making sure we don't get too sideways. God, this thing's just a hoot to drive at low speeds. I love it. It is so fun. Yeah. Yeah. Now, of course, we operated this vehicle at night. It wouldn't be a Motorcyclist Magazine evaluation on our terms without an evaluation of the headlights of this vehicle. Now, while it looks like this vehicle has headlights on either side of the front of it, it actually doesn't. Those are just positioning LED lights. The center beam, that does the heavy lifting of the headlight. The headlight on this vehicle, it performs okay. I think it should be brighter. It should be brighter, and it should throw a farther stream of light to the road ahead, especially for the vehicle MSRP. Most automobiles these days will have a better headlight setup. Even most motorcycles will have better headlight setups than this vehicle. Polaris, we'd like you to step up the lighting on this vehicle. While it definitely looks awesome, it is not as functional as it should be. It's worth noting that this vehicle has full LED head beams or headlight bulbs front and rear, and the positioning lights of this vehicle at night, it looks awesome. Definitely looks awesome, but more show than it is go. Oh, the seat heaters are working really good, folks. Fuel mileage wise, we have averaged right around 28 miles per gallon with this Slingshot. We haven't been driving it too fast. I mean, obviously we go through the gears at lower speeds, but we're not cruising at 90 down the freeway like we would on a motorcycle. So right around 28 mpgs with a fuel capacity just under 10 gallons. It's worth noting that Polaris wants its drivers to run 91 octane unleaded fuel. It doesn't want you to run E85. E85 fuel is a no-go for this 1997 cc i4 engine. Now, the neat thing about this Slingshot R is that you can be operating it with your passenger sitting right next to you. It is much more of an intimate and social riding experience than you would on a motorcycle with a person's behind you. Where you're here, it's like you're in a car, a drop-top car with no roof. Of course, Polaris offers roof options for those who want to have some protection from the elements, but this in standard Slingshot R configuration there is no roof. But it's neat, you get to talk to your passenger. Obviously we don't have anyone, so we're gonna have to make up. We'll talk to our imaginary friend Jim. Hey Jim, how's it going? Haha, just joking. But nice social experience when you're operating these Slingshots, and that's why these things really are so cool. These things aren't really about getting anywhere fast. Obviously you can't lane filter. These three-wheel autocycles don't enjoy many of the benefits of a traditional automobile, but at the same time they're cool because they draw a lot of attention. You're gonna get more attention in this $33,000. You're gonna get more attention in this $33,000 Slingshot R than you are in a $200,000 Ferrari, and that's the facts, Jack. Like, it's crazy. If you're someone who really wants to have a lot of attention, you should get one of these Slingshots, because these things are gonna make you instantly cool if that's who you want to be. But at the same time, when you have this vehicle, it's gonna attract a lot of attention, good and bad. So law enforcement's gonna be staring at you, everyone's gonna be staring at you, waiting for you to do something wrong. So if you don't want to be under the spotlight, don't buy this vehicle. However, if you do, and you don't want to spend a ton of money, the Slingshot actually brings up a lot of value from that point of view. Love the sound system in this thing. Totally worth it. Obviously the road noise drowns things out, sort of, but you can still hear it. It's the optical clarity of these speakers is really good too. Of course, you can turn tracks with this button here. Look at that hawk, that was beautiful. Now this Slingshot, obviously, although it's highway capable, this isn't a vehicle you really want to be doing a long distance touring on. The suspension rides relatively roughly. There's not a lot of wind protection. I mean, this windshield does a nice job of shielding rider from the driver, or occupants, I'm sorry, from the elements, but there's not a whole lot of protection from the elements. Of course, if you purchased the accessory roof, that would help for sure. But touring is not really something in the Polaris' skill set. But for running around town, short jaunts, absolutely within its wheelhouse. God, it's so fun to go through the gearbox in this thing. Now this Polaris Slingshot's also fitted with a backup camera. Of course, the ability to turn around and see what's behind you is kind of tough, so the backup camera helps. It automatically engages when you put the vehicle into reverse. You put it into reverse by going all the way to the right and back. That is reverse. These rear view mirrors also do a nice job of showing off what is behind you. Very nice. A little bit of vibration through the mirrors, but it isn't off-putting. Cruise control, yes. We've got cruise control to help us ensure that we aren't speeding aggressively, even though I want to speed aggressively right here, because speeding aggressively is always fun. Yes. Oh yeah, baby. Polaris claims a 0 to 60 just under 5 seconds in this vehicle. It's not the fastest thing on the road, but nor is it the slowest. We have cruise control set, 70 miles per hour. To be fair, the Slingshot is driving pretty nicely at this speed. This road, to be fair though, also is pretty smooth. Very nice. All right, folks, we are going to spend some more time driving. We will check in with you in a little bit. Well, folks, that was a fun drive inside Polaris's 2023 Slingshot R. This thing is absolutely a head turner. If you're someone who wants to create a lot of noise and raise some ruckus when you arrive at the hot spot in the evening or even during the day, this $34,000 Slingshot R will do it. But still, for $34,000, it's a lot of money. This vehicle is over $7,000 more than the Slingshot SL we test drove last year. And while you do get a lot more features like that magnificent sport vented hood, the bigger tire, the nicer seats with heating and cooling, and that windshield, this vehicle still is a lot of money, especially when you can consider that you can buy a sporty type automobile for roughly the same price. Still, if you're someone who wants to have a lot of attention, that wants to make a statement, that wants to be a part of the power sport community, yet not ride an actual motorcycle, this Polaris Slingshot definitely will get you there and take that place in the power sports lineup. It's unique. There's nothing else really like it. While the low speed handling is totally awesome, at higher speeds it gets a little unhinged and the ride quality could be a little bit better. But still, this vehicle isn't about raw performance. It's about style. It's about being able to talk to your passenger while you're riding and just have a little bit of fun. Well, folks, that wraps up our review of Polaris's 2023 Slingshot R. Would we spend our hard-earned $34,000 on this vehicle? We really wouldn't, because it's just a little bit too expensive for what you get for a motorcycle person. But if money is no object, if garage space is no object, and you want a fun vehicle to cruise around town and have some fun and make some noise and get some attention, this $34,000 Slingshot R will do that. And it's a pretty neat vehicle when you think about it from that point of view. All right, folks, that wraps up our official review of Polaris's 2023 Slingshot R. As always, make sure to surf on over to motorcyclistonline.com. That's where all of our written content comes to life. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs it down if you didn't, because we love to hear from the naysayers, and leave us a comment. What do you think of Polaris's three-wheeled autocycle? Yes, we know it's not a motorcycle. It's a three-wheeled autocycle. But sound off in the comment section anyways. As always, folks, thanks for driving with us. We'll see you in the next episode. You!